We're going to dive in, man. We're going to dive in. Firstly, welcome.
Thank you, mate.
Welcome to the podcast, my friend. It's long overdue. It's definitely long overdue. Just to give everyone who's listening a bit of a background story around what we've been doing the past 24 hours. Arrived in Bondi. My good friend Justin here got me straight into the ice bath. Magical moment, ritual, and something that I'm always shitting myself to do. But it was just amazing, man. Like, I love the atmosphere, the ritualistic approach you're taking to your mornings. You know, I think it's super powerful. It's something that I've really neglected for a long time. And when I say a long time, if we're putting a time frame on something in that capacity, I'm talking, last maybe month and a half. I've really pigeonholed myself into not wanting to allocate time necessarily in my mornings to really making sure they're the best. What for you is what's been the catalyst? What was the catalyst for you to be able to come? You're in Sydney now. You're starting to create this environment. You're starting to create this morning routine, which is just, it's magical, dude. Like what you've been able to create for yourself. But I guess I want you to I want myself and also whoever's listening to understand, like, what is that catalyst for you and what's it all about to be able to do that every single day?
Mate, firstly, thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
And you're right, it's a ritual.
Yeah.
But I think it's equally important before I dive into it to dive into the bullshit side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I sent you something the other day, and it was the guy who has the 30 different rituals in his morning just to be able to start his day. And we were having a laugh about it because it's bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the right place to start because, yes, it's a ritual, but in a moment, let's take it back. It's really important that whatever we do isn't required in order to be able to start the day.
I love that.
And so I was the first culprit of that. I've been doing this ritual for over 5-7 years now.
Yeah.
And the reason I do it isn't actually because I think it's fun to do. I grew up with Crohn's disease, which is kind of like an inflammation of the stomach. And so I've got a huge awareness of the stresses in my life and how it gets triggered and the impact of that because it affects every aspect of my life. And so these rituals were actually born out of a need to do something about it because I was 21 years old and my girlfriend at the time had to help me out of bed. And it felt like such a deliberate, such a uncomfortable feeling to be so young and feel so fragile.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I was looking for things to improve, I went to every doctor you can imagine. I did everything that you can imagine. And in the end, I now have something that I've been doing for 10 to 12 years that works to me.
Yeah.
And works for me. I can tell you what that is in a moment, but before I do, I actually want to tell you about the watch outs because this should have a big, on the cigarette packets, watch out.
Yeah, yeah.
No one talks about the dark side of this, but I think let's dive straight into it.
Yeah, let's do it, dude. Let's do it.
The dark side to it is a ritual is a really beautiful thing to have. This morning we went and we woke up, we watched the sunrise, we jumped in the ocean, we had an opportunity to go and have a sauna and all before 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. And it was magical and very hard to have a shitty day after that. Doesn't matter what comes up. But what happens if it rains? Well, you'd say, well, I'd still go, right? No problem. What happens a few years back when it wasn't about the rain, but we had no control over our movements? We were living in Melbourne.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had that 5 kilometre zone that we were allowed to leave. And guess what? I didn't live within 5 kilometres of the beach. So guess what? All of a sudden, my ritual, my means of doing, my means of being, I literally couldn't do. And it was the first time in my life that I felt really isolated.
Yeah.
And when you call on the things that you normally have, whether it's a coffee or an ice bath, it doesn't make a difference. But when you don't have it, and then all of a sudden I felt inferior and I was like, well, I can't start my day. I can't achieve what I need to do because I don't have it. Well, that was the worst feeling in the world, and that's why I want to preface what I'm about to say with, it's okay to have these rituals and enjoy them for what they are. But when you need them in order to define your day, in order to be able to go about things, that's when they become a high risk, and it should be on the cigarette packet, because at that point I couldn't. And at that point, that's the first time in my life where I felt completely isolated and I felt like a shell and I didn't have the things that I needed.
Yeah.
And so that actually brings me to one ritual that I do feel comfortable sharing with you or anyone else in case it's valuable, but it's a ritual that I do for myself. And that's actually breath work. Breath work and meditation. Because even though I was isolated and I couldn't go to the beach,
you can still do your breath work. You can still do your meditation. You know,
still have my breath.
The craziest thing about what you just said and why it resonates so heavily with me is Alex Panno talks about this, where it's kind of like, do your habits or do your rituals control you, or do you control your rituals? And there's like a danger, like you said, it's like if you're getting to a stage where those ritualistic approaches to life, whether it is your ice bath, whether it's your 5K kilometer run, whatever it is that you need to get going, if you're so heavily reliant on there, it's almost dangerous, because you're basically setting yourself up for some really dangerous territory. And, you know, even David Goggins talks about, it's like you got those guys, they've got their headset on, they're going out to the game, they're about to play. What happens when you take the headset off?
Yeah.
You know, that's where your motivation is. When you take that off, are you just not motivated anymore? Do you not have that kind of that support system, whatever that support system is to you? Is that gone because you don't have that one thing that you're relying on to get you to a place where you need to be? So I think it's really powerful what you've said, and it's something that I've never really looked at in that sense. And I want to touch on, like, you're talking about the meditation, the breath work, and I know you're a huge advocate for this, and this is something that, like, this is your bread and butter. And funnily enough, you're the one who got me into meditation and some form of breath work, even though I used to give you so much shit about doing it. And now look at me, I'm like the monk of meditation and breath work. But can you give us a little bit of history? Like, I want people to understand you, like where you came from. What were your struggles prior to taking this journey? Because I think it's important to always understand the starting point. You know, it's all good to say I'm doing X, Y, and Z now. I'm really good at it. I'm really passionate about it. But I feel like through pain comes beauty, through pain comes development and growth. And, you know, I want you to give us a bit of an understanding, and we'll dive back into what you were mentioning before. But I think let's even preface right back to understand, like, who's Justin? Where did it start? I'll give you the floor. Let's go.
Who's Justin? I guess I'm still working that out. But who do I want to be?
Yeah.
I want to be able to wake up every single day and know that I'm getting a little bit better, and a little bit better versus the person I was yesterday. And I've fallen into the trap of being in environments where I look next to the person next to me or the thing next to me, and I want to be better than that. But it never works out for me. And so who's Justin? He's the guy that hopefully you look at, and every year you catch up and have a conversation, and hopefully that conversation's about something real, something going on in your life. I've got more value to add because I've had more experience, and I'm pushing myself to be better for me. And in that, hopefully I can have better conversations with you and push you to be better for you. So that's probably as far as I can go as saying who's Justin. Yeah. But why do I do all of this? I mean, mate, I couldn't have been further from it growing up.
Can we dive into this? Like, I need to understand, like, I know, but again, it's beautiful because everyone's got these different starting points, dude. And, you know, different levels, different rocks they've come from under. And the journey of life's just fucking crazy. Like, from where somebody starts, trials and tribulations they go through. But the reality is you are where you're meant to be. And whatever's happened to you had to happen to you because it didn't happen any other way. So, yeah, as I said, dude, you've got the floor. Give us the little cliff notes of your life. Give us little cliff notes of where it all started, and we'll flow from there.
Well, maybe the context for this is there's always signs and signals, and I'm not talking woo-woo signs and signals. I'm talking life events that happen to us.
Yeah.
And not only life events. In our body, let's start there.
Okay.
In our body, when something's not right, some form of the body within you is going to tell you. So it's going to nudge you at first somehow. Maybe you get sick for a few days. Then you get on with life and you forget about it. Then it'll nudge you again, but this time a little bit more. And then eventually, if you don't listen, it's going to force you to listen. And I think that's what happened with me, because we're really talking about awareness and being conscious, conscious of what's going on, conscious of ourselves. And, you know, it's fair to say that I didn't even know what the word conscious was. And it doesn't mean that now, because I do, I'm better for it, but, you know, and I'm I'm a more evolved being, but I think it's, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had a few nudges, and I was 18 years old, had a few nudges. First nudge was some family situation, nudge you, hey, guess what? Your life isn't so perfect. Life isn't just this little box that you fit in and everything's going to be great. And it nudged me right off my chair.
Yeah.
And at the time, just like everybody else, where do you go? What do you say? What do you do? And it was a learning opportunity for me to learn about relationships and actually how hard relationships are, and also how important relationships are. And so that was something that I carried into the next phases of my life. But then I also had another nudge, and the other nudge was related to my health. And we spoke about it really, really briefly. I said when I was 21 years old and my girlfriend needed to help me out of bed. Well, the context for that was I was in a lot of pain. I didn't know why. I didn't know what it was. I went to every specialist I could reach out to. I was living in Sydney at the time, and everybody was trying to work out what it was, and it became this really long, drawn-out process that by the end, you don't care what it is, you just want someone to tell you. Yeah. That's how bad it got. And it's that little bit of, well, if I know what it is, I can do something about it. Eventually, I saw the right specialist, and I think I need to give some additional context to this. He told me at the time, guess what? Unfortunately, you have this thing called Crohn's disease, and you need to really look at your life and what you're doing and how you're doing and reassess it. I'm here for you. I can help you. There's some strong medications you're going to need to take ongoing, but you're going to have to shift up your life.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just a fun-loving kid, go up for anything, literally anything.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there, but I'm your guy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here I was. I'd already experienced that family element of nudging me off my chair. And at that point, I realized I really want some more life experience, because when that family element happened to me, we all do it. I put all my energy into something, and at the time it was my career.
Yeah.
And so I went and I started working in consulting, and I poured all my energy into that and progressed really quickly in it. And I remember waking up one day and looking around and saying, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want to be the most rounded guy. And really, for me, you can have book smarts, brain smarts, career development, whatever you want to call it. And then you have life experience. And so I was very focused on how can I get life experience. And I grew up with the kinds of mornings we just experienced today, down at the beach in Bondi, surfing.
Yeah.
And so it's a life experience, but it's not a well-rounded life experience. It's the life experience you hope to get to enjoy. And so there was this idea of I wanted to go somewhere, but I wasn't looking for something better. I was just looking for something different. And it took a lot of energy to try and convince everyone around me that, yeah, it's the right thing to go, to leave, because naturally my mum at the time's looking at me going, you've got a fantastic job, you live by the beach, you've got amazing friends, family, why do you want to leave?
Yeah.
And I couldn't even say, well, I'm looking for something better. I just had to say, because I'm looking for something different.
So would you say that's, if we looked at, we spoke yesterday about like the 6 human needs, and I was saying to you, the reason I'm going to Thailand is because I'm somebody who prioritizes certainty over everything else. Like I need certainty in my life, but the transition now is I just want complete uncertainty. Like, I just want to dive into the unknown and just see what the hell, good, bad, or ugly. I just want to see what comes of it. Would you say that's the same kind of headspace you were in within that moment, wanting complete uncertainty in your life? You just wanted to go and just whatever comes, comes.
Well, you said the most important part. It wasn't about good experiences or bad experiences. It was just about experiences.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted life experience, real first-hand life experience, push me out in the deep end. And yes, it's exactly the same thing. And we have moments of our lives where we want more comfort, we want more structure, we want to build a base. And we have moments where we want to fly off the cliff and hope we've got a parachute.
Yeah. That's so good, dude.
Right.
I fucking hope. Actually, you know what? I don't even care about the parachute, dude. I'm just ready to jump off and just let whatever happens. But anyway, yeah, continue.
No, and that's it. Let what happens.
Yeah.
And just continue. And so that was what I did. I had these plans at the time to go and live in London. And I remember going into the consulting that I was working in at the time, and I said, listen, I need to go. And I knew they would convince me out of it because the logical thing was to stay, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually went and bought my ticket before I went to speak to them, non-refundable, because I knew there was no way they were going to talk me out of it. And so I went there and I went and I said, look, first things first, and I put it on the table. I said, I've bought a ticket. It's non-refundable. By the way, I really want to move to London. I want to get some life experience, and these are going to be my last few days, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that was my first life lesson, I guess, because I was this little guy. I thought I had a bit of life experience, professional experience, and they just go, "Yeah, cool, no worries." I'm like, "Wait, don't you want me? Don't you need me?" And I realized that we're all really disposable. And so you need to do what's good for you, and you need to do it in the best way for others. So what would a reasonable person do, and how would they act in this sort of situation? But you must always do, and I always did, what was best for me.
Yeah.
And I realized that we put too much emphasis on what's this person going to think or feel, whereas the decision to go was my decision. They knew that for me, if that's what I wanted to do, it was right for me, and it was actually much easier. So this big moment for me was just like, oh yeah, go, no worries.
Yeah.
So then packing up, a couple of weeks later, at this point, I'm taking it right back to where I was saying my girlfriend's helping me out of bed, not sure what to do. I've still got problems, and I haven't really sorted it out. And then I go to the specialist, and we did a colonoscopy and a few other things, and he comes back and he says, Justin, you've got Crohn's. And I go, cool, let's get sorted. Let's do what we need to, because I'm on a plane in a few weeks. And he looked at me and he goes, you're not getting on that plane. And in that moment, I broke down, because here I am. I put so much emphasis on this idea that I'm going to get this life experience. I've just come out of this kind of family drama for a while. I feel like I'm ready to take on the world, and then boom.
Which is still life experience, right?
Which is life experience.
It's just not the life experience you were hoping for, but...
And I think, catchphrase, quote, life experience is just life experience. Don't look for something, just be.
Yeah.
And so that was exactly what it was. And that actually changed everything, because I actually went back to my job and I said to them, look, I have no idea how to tell you this, but I've just come from the specialist and I can't leave. Can I have my job back?
What did they say?
Imagine I'm going in full. No, I've got to go. Can't stay.
You've put the ticket on the table.
I'm going. Nothing's going to stop me. Can I have my job back?
Yeah.
And then another lesson in life.
Yeah.
We make decisions with the information we have at the time. And a reasonable person will always look at the new information and be able to reassess it and make different decisions. And if the decision's the same decision, great. But with the new information, if someone doesn't reassess it, are they smart or they're stupid? I'll leave it up to you to decide. But this is a little bit connected to that. When somebody's so gung-ho and they say, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And then imagine if there's a street and somebody says, I'm driving down that street no matter what. I say, great. Now guess what? New information. There's a fire in the middle of the street. You're still driving down the street? Well, someone who says, well, you got to do what you say, will say, yeah. But you'd look at him and say, well, there's new information. You'd be stupid to drive down the street.
Yeah.
And so that was a nice little realization at that point, that just because you say something, you definitely, and I definitely act on it. But with new information, and every day there's new information, it's okay to reassess. And if you make the same decision, great. And if you decide to make a decision, that's okay as well.
So I want to just dive into this. I just want to really break this down, because for me, I used to always be that guy who, when I make a decision, even if I knew that it was wrong, it was just pure pride and ego, creating a space where I'm just, I'm sticking to it. And you almost feel like, you're kind of looking at yourself like you're a dickhead. What are you doing? But you're having this internal monologue which is like, no, I'm standing up for this. Knowing that it's wrong, knowing that it's not the right choice, knowing that it's not where I should be or the direction I should be going. But is there some element which is, I know when we worked together, there was definitely moments where we laugh about it now, but at the time, different person, different place, different being in some sense. But, I know you would say something, but it was because you were giving me the information and I wasn't able to make that decision myself, or I didn't come to that decision myself. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And in my head, like the monologue's playing, like, dude, he's right. It's like nudge, nudge. Like, what are you doing? He's right. And I'm just like, nope, not happening. I'll go down with the ship. I'm going to go down with this fucking ship and I'll be on it and I'll be waving to you, But I guess the question I want to ask around that is, why do you feel like, is that something that's innate in us, that we don't want to necessarily take advice from people or acknowledge that new information is maybe the right option? Like, why is that something that I find and I may be generalizing here, but I find that it's pretty normal. Like, people don't want to take advice from other people. I know people don't change for other people, but they don't also take advice. Where do you think that comes from? Or is that just lack of awareness, lack of being unconscious around, I don't know, like what do you feel that could be? I personally don't know.
It's ego.
There you go. All right. That's locked in the bag then. And
we all have one, and we all do it.
Yeah.
And it's in every different situation, and it's okay because it's our defense mechanism.
But what are we fighting for in that moment?
Everything that you ever weren't and always wanted to be.
Fuck. Yeah, it's so true. Because, I look now it's a bit different. I guess now it's like a 180. It's look at the information. I guess, we touched on this yesterday, but now if I hear new information, I still don't take on that information as it's for just face value. I check it against my current thought process around that ideology or that idea. And then I'll go, does that sit and feel better for me with that new information? Does it not? Does it actually make more sense than what I currently believe? And then I make the decision internally to go, I'm going to allow that to align with me more, versus just taking it from face value without actually checking it against my current belief system in a way. I don't know if belief system's the right word, but I guess what I believe in that moment, which has definitely proved for me to allow me to grow and to develop and actually to evolve, which is a beautiful thing, instead of just being very stagnant in my approach to just information and just people and the rest of it. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent here.
No, you're not. You're actually talking about something really important, because I made a pretty serious statement, right? I said, here I am needing to adjust course because of new information.
Yeah.
And really what you're talking about is not all information is equal.
Yeah.
And so this isn't a blanket rule like, hey, always absorb everything and then go on with your way and do the same thing. What you're talking about is, how do you disseminate between what is information that serves me and what is noise?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yep.
And we all internalize that however we need to. And it's an important part. And I think an element of why do we normally have our backs against the wall and why are we normally a certain way, I think in part it's because there's so much disinformation and so much going on that if you didn't in a way, then you'd be filled up with shit.
Yeah.
The question here is, how do you open the gates with the right information? I think this opens a different topic, which is about where's that information coming from? What's the intent behind it? Does that person have something to gain? If so, what? Or do they have my best intentions? And just understanding what is driving that doesn't mean you still take it in, but it gives you at least the information to know, is this worth listening to? And then when you listen to it within the context of where would this person be coming on? What's their life experience? Because our parents, for example, love to give us advice.
Yeah.
Right. And they're coming from the best of places. And so the principal rule, you might say, well, listen to it. And it's true in part, but it's also true that the world's different. And so you need to analyze the information, not only from where it's coming from, but in relation to where we are and where the world is and where you are at that time.
Yeah, I'm just letting it simmer. Like I'm letting that simmer, because if you take the parents, for example, I was speaking to my dad the other day and we were talking about like the conditioning around trauma and my upbringing and the things that happened. And, it's a different age. It's a different level of information, accessibility. It's just this life where you're just going through the motions in your own life. You're just trying to do the best you can. You're not understanding the impact of your decisions and your actions and your words and your behaviors and your thoughts. And you don't know how that then layers on like a paintbrush on top of your child, right? And we're diving into that together, and we're having a really good conversation around it. And the interesting, that he feels horrible for creating an environment that was conducive to me having these abandonment issues and all these things that came up for me later in life. But it's like, you can't change like that. That's just something that I have to go through and work through now. But I still, now it's crazy because now I listen to him, and granted, there's maybe like 95% of what he says I don't agree with, but what I'm trying to listen for is the 5% of the golden nugget that's going to get dropped. That's what I'm trying to really, when I listen now, I really want to try to focus on trying to find the gold nugget in the conversation, not trying to worry about the 95% of bullshit that I don't agree with.
Well, there's a little hack to that.
Yeah.
And we spoke about it yesterday, right? Yeah. We were sitting there on the rocks.
We did. Yeah. I want you to share this, because this, like I told you, it just fucking blew my mind in the way that you can look at things differently. I'll let you take it on and explain it, but yeah, it was awesome.
Well, I'm happy for you to do it, but I'll talk about the takeaway. The takeaway is, when you enter a situation with curiosity, you can't fail. And so that's it. Case in point.
Yeah.
You already know your dad just did his best.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right. Like he did the best. And it's crazy, like when you don't speak to somebody for 18 years and then you have to, you reconnect in a way, and you're learning about his life and his trials and his pain and tribulations, his happy moments, like his wife died, and that was it's crazy, man. It's like just learning about somebody, but they created you. They put you into this world. It's a really surreal situation. Like you feel like your parents should be the person you know the most, but it's like learning about a stranger do you get what I mean? Like it's a really fucking crazy, weird, exciting, amazing situation to be in. It's like a mix of emotions, a bag of emotions. But then it also is like finding puzzle pieces in your life that were missing before. You've got, 95% of an image, but those few pieces that are missing are not going to allow you to see what the final product looks like or how it was created or whatever the case is. So I think the beautiful thing that I get to be now is like fulfilled in the sense that I get to know like why I might be a certain way, or certain traits genetically that have come through, mannerisms that have come through that I would have acknowledged and soaked in at, that young age, 2-3 years old. It's just a beautiful thing. It's like having a complete image.
So you spent last weekend with him, right?
I did, yeah.
So why don't you share with me then what's something about yourself or about him or about the world that you learnt over that weekend?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from like one of the beautiful moments I think was just one of the beautiful things I learned was just his journey through life, and a lot more around his struggles and his resilience to difficulty and his ability to just look at what we would maybe consider really negative situations and just trying to make the best of them in whatever that may be, you know. And it comes back to, I think, appreciating the smallest things, because he didn't have a lot. You know, he didn't, you know, they might be lucky to be able to, you know, put something nice on the table for dinner. Normally it was, you know, they might have some bread or whatever the case is, and eventually they might be able to afford to go buy something. They make a nice pasta, but that was just the highlight of their month. For us, it would be the highlight of the night. Yeah. And it's, yeah, it really is. It's like eye-opening to be able to go, okay, well, if we're being grateful for anything, it's like, and we spoke about this yesterday, I'm kind of going off topic. I'll get back onto what it was. But, you know, yesterday I think you asked your partner, it's like, what was your best part of your day? And everyone will really try to think about, what's the best part of my day? Oh, I went for coffee with this person. We went to the beach. And it's like, no. Like, the best part of your day should be the fact that you had another day, that you got to open your eyes that day. That should be the best part of your day. And we forget the smallest things that are so precious, man. And we just completely, and I don't think it's at our own fault. It's just the way we are, the way we're conditioned, that we always try to look for more. But I don't know if you can appreciate the big things without appreciating the small things. I don't know. That's just how I can kind of see it now. Like the big things don't feel as amazing, as precious, when you're just like completely avoiding what's real right now, which is like you opened your eyes, you got out of bed, you can move your fingers, you can move your toes, you can look around the room, you can do all these things, you can hear. Like, we take it all for granted, you know? Anyway, but that's just like, yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. I guess coming back onto what I was saying with Dad, it's appreciating the little things. That's something that I really learnt with him. And still to this day, he doesn't have a lot, but everything he has, it's like he really loves, you know, he really appreciates it. He really makes the most of it. And yeah, it's just beautiful. That's something that I've really tried to incorporate more into my day to day, and focus on what's important, not what's replaceable.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think there's a lot in there.
Yeah, we've got to unpack that.
There's a lot in there. But immediately, the one thing that comes to mind for me is you were talking about the little things and the big things. And I actually think they're one and the same, because the little things are the big things. Like, how incredible is it that we can open our eyes, that we do exist, that we actually wake up.
That's a whole different perspective shift, isn't it? Because, you know, even to consider those things, little things, like now, again, checking against what I believe, I would then consider them the big things in life.
Correct.
Now, because it makes more sense when you say it like that. It's like, well, that is the important thing. Buying your nice car is a little thing.
Anyone can do it.
Blip.
It's a value exchange.
Yeah.
You work your hours or you leverage whatever it is. You earn your money. You buy a car.
Yeah. It's not
but
really...
you can't... You tell me anyone that can create something even more magical than that, something as intricate and as complex and as simple and as perfect as us.
Yeah.
I actually already know the answer.
Tell me.
All of our mothers. What queens.
Yeah.
So those are the little things and those are the big things. And so I think this ties back a little bit into when we're listening to your father and my mother, and they created us. They created this big thing.
Yeah. It's so true.
And it's amazing. But at the same time, we also said, even though they were responsible for the creation, such an amazing big thing.
Yeah.
We also don't necessarily just take whatever they say on board, and that goes to show the level beyond that, how magical we are, because despite just accepting, we know that we can be even better and even more. And that's what we get to pass on, and that's literally I guess, the essence of evolution.
Yeah. Do you think that ties into like the generational breaking of the trauma chain to an extent as well? As in when you're saying the evolution, but it's also the evolution of being able to like allow your offspring, your kids, to maybe have better conditioning or have a better environment created because you have gone and done work that your parents, and I want to dive into this a little bit more as well, because for me, I feel like the responsibility on my side is that I get to go do this work. I have to go through the difficulty of repairing, and actually fuck repairing, because that implies that there's something wrong with us. There's something that needs to be mended. I think we are just who we are, and we just get to progress and evolve and become something lighter and freer and more beautiful, although we're already beautiful. But, you know, I think we just go through those motions, but it also then paves the way. It paves the setting for the next generation to, they'll have their own sets of challenges, but I think we're a lot more aware. We're a lot more conditioned to know how to deal with it, how to allow them to, like with meditation. Imagine your parents sat you down when you were from super young and just taught you how to do breath work, taught you how to regulate your emotions, taught you how to feel your emotions instead of think through your emotions, taught you how to hold space and create space for yourself, create peace and presence and things that we now look like, fuck, I wish I could do. You know, you're spending every day trying to get to that place, but it would have been a pretty beautiful thing to have those types of environments created instead of now we find out. But I guess it's a progression, right? It's a progression of society. But I guess diving into, like the generational trauma stuff, like do you feel that it's a pretty heavy responsibility?
Different times, different needs.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of my background, a lot of people in my world, just one or two, one generation, our grandparents, a lot of them were in the Holocaust.
Yeah, fuck.
And so the needs were different. It was literally about survival. And the people that came out of the Holocaust, their focus was just about one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And so for many people that I know, their parents or their children or our parents were the first generation that had some sort of safety, but they were born with the view that there isn't safety because that would have been instilled in them subconsciously or consciously.
Yeah.
And so that was embedded in them in some way, shape or form and carried on.
Yeah.
And so now we talk about our generation, and I said I grew up in Australia, the land of the free, can do whatever you want, whatever. But I've still got my icks, right, and my ways. And
what are your icks? What are your ways?
Plenty. We don't have enough time today. But what I'm actually really optimistic about is a lot of people talk about the kids these days. They ruin the technology. They're not going to have to think for themselves or do. It's true. But my nieces and nephew, they're only a couple of years old. And when they get frustrated, I see it at my sister's house. They sit and they meditate. And they're not only learning that from my sister. My sister's not necessarily instilling that in them. They're learning that at school and bringing it home.
Yeah.
And so different times, different needs. I think one of the biggest challenges that everybody's facing at the moment is mental health. And so the challenges we're facing at the moment are less physical and more mental and emotional. And it requires a different toolkit. And so that's why a lot of the conversations that we're having now, even you and me, compared to when we were kids or the conversations you have day to day with people, they're much more about the mental and emotional side rather than the physical side.
Yeah.
Because that's what's required at the moment. And so we're all just students of life trying to work out, okay, the internal is actually even harder to understand, harder to see what works, what doesn't. And once again, lots of misinformation, but within there are a few nuggets, and self-awareness is one of them. Be able to see what's coming. And then after that, understand what's driving the decisions that we make. really drawing back to not what we do, but why we do it, all that related to self-limiting beliefs. And we all have them.
Yeah.
I have them. You have them.
100%.
Everyone has them.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily even about changing them. I think a lot of people spend a lot of their lives saying, well, when I was younger, this happened to me, and so I'm trying to change that self-limiting belief. And spoiler alert, I don't want to waste your time. I know that this might be counterproductive, or some people might have a different view, but my personal view is it's okay to be aware of it, but when you try and change it, you're really just spending more energy and focus on it. And Joey D says it best, Joe Dispenza, where focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit, we were standing today after the sauna, and I made a joke, say some affirmations.
Yeah.
And, I'm incredible. But then we said stop.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to tell yourself that you're X or you're Y, because if you are, you just are.
Yeah.
And actually by saying it and doing it, well, that's why would you need to do it if you believe it?
Yeah.
And so a lot of this stuff as well is connected in that when we think about it like that, or we think about the self-limiting beliefs, they're fantastic as a marker to understand why we do things that we do. But it's not about then changing it and saying, well, now I'm going to change that belief, because that's just putting the energy into it. And the more you do it, the more you're actually not going to change that belief, because you're sending the subconscious messages to yourself. So in that situation, it's about recognizing it, and then you say, oh, but then what?
Yeah.
Then it's easy. Then it's about refocusing the power. Say, well, do I actually believe that about myself? Is that actually true? And you're the perfect example of it. You said to me yesterday and today, I love playing this game with myself where I feel and hear myself saying you can't do it. And then I question myself and say, bullshit, of course I can, and I'm going to. And then you prove yourself wrong. And that's taking your power back. And where your energy goes, where your focus flows.
That's it. And it's just crazy for me to even think I've got to a place where I can do that. And just like I said yesterday, I mean, it's like you got to play a game with yourself, man. Like, your thoughts are not your thoughts.
Yep.
So if they're not your thoughts, you can question them, and you can object to them, and you can prove whatever the fuck you need to prove them wrong. But it's like you have to play that game with yourself. Like, as soon as that voice comes up and says, you're not good enough to do that, you can't do that, you don't have the skills. Speaking to Lauren, the hypnotherapist, on my last episode, we're talking around like limiting belief systems, right?
Yep.
But it's the truth of just when those things come up, you're automatically looking for resource to support the fact that you can't do it. Like, so I'm in this situation. I'm in this same situation. I was in the same situation 12 months ago, hypothetically. But it worked out really well then. So why is it not going to work out here? But, what she was talking about is that, what as human beings, our negative thoughts seem to always be the loudest and the most valid. But then why can't the situation turn into the best situation of your fucking life? What about if it works out better than you could ever imagine? Why can't those be the thoughts? And that's why I challenge myself. It's like, well, worst case scenario, it's not going to work. Can I accept that? Yeah, I can accept that. Best case scenario turns into something fucking incredible. Huge upside. I'd rather go with the upside and just limit the downside risk of whatever that is. And yeah, it just comes back to just challenging, man. Like, I think it's important. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't be doing the podcast and just content. I mean, fuck, dude. Like, 6 months ago, I was scared to get in front of a camera, so it's just having to push yourself constantly. I get people messaging me about, I want to start a podcast. I want to do this. What are tips and tricks? And it's really just do it. Just fucking put yourself out there. It sounds like simple, and I know there's more to just do it, but it's just do it. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's just
well, maybe a different way to say it, because it also takes the expectation that it has to be good. Instead of just do it, it's fall forward. It's this idea that you're going to fall, so accept it.
Yeah.
But you're falling forward, which means you're moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking fall forward, dude. That's it. That's the best way to describe it. Know that you're going to fail. Know that there is failure in your future, but it's good failure because you've just done something that you would have never done before.
Fall forward. Enough times you'll start rolling down the hill.
Yeah, it's like your negative IP in life. Like all your mistakes lead to
IP.
positive IP, and it's that's what it's about. And so like for me, just the learning of what I've been able to do, all the things I've been able to take away, it's a beautiful thing. Like I've had a lot of failure in this. Things haven't gone the way I wanted, or I haven't got as much engagement, or I haven't done. But you also learn that it's like, who cares? Like it doesn't matter. Like the people that it's going to resonate with will resonate. The people that get something from it will get something from it, and that's what's important to me. And over time, you just keep refining and refining and refining your craft in whatever way you're going. You just become better and better and better and better at it. But you also enjoy the process. And I think that's the other major thing, is enjoying the process. Like I've stopped thinking about the end goal as much as what I'm doing in the current moment, because it's not important. Whatever's going to happen, where I'm going to get to, is I'm going to get there. But if I miss this, if I miss what the present moment's presenting me, what's it worth for? Like, what's it for? What's it all for? Nothing. Like I'm not enjoying getting to that level. Like I haven't gone through the hardship, because again, it comes back to, it's not always going to be the good times. You're going to have the bad times. They're just as enjoyable. If you frame it that way, if you have the perspective of that, they are just as enjoyable, because that's where growth comes. You're not going to grow from things that are comfortable, things that go well. You're going to grow from the difficulty, the hardships, the painful times, the times where you didn't feel like you were good enough, but you overcame that. The times where things didn't go right, but you figured it out. Constantly testing yourself, constantly putting you're A/B testing your fucking life, dude. You're split testing your life constantly, like they do in marketing. But that's how I see it. It's like constantly split test. Well, I could do this way, but let's try this way to see how it works. Didn't work that well. Okay, well, we'll stick to the way we're originally going to do it. Let's try it again.
So it sounds simple, but the thing with A/B testing is that there's no emotion in it. You're looking at figures on a page, and it's easy to make the decision.
Yeah.
And so it's normal why people conceptually understand the idea of you do your A/B testing, but why can't I apply it to me? It's because we're emotional beings, and there's more to us. And I get it. I had a thought while you were talking, and it was a thought actually for me, but I think it's equally relevant, especially for what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure why I was going to have this chat with you, and I thought, what about if I do more of these more often? And why would I do it? And you were talking about engagement and different metrics, and I think that's almost setting up for failure, because the platforms are going to change. The metrics 1 month might be through the roof, the next month not. Does that mean you're any less of a person or less valuable in what you're saying? And so I was having this thought while you were saying it, and I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, go for it.
That I think it's a really nice idea just to do this, because earlier in the conversation we were talking about generational evolution and what that means, and at least I felt like we established that what's needed at the moment is evolution mentally, emotionally, right? Focus there.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where a lot of our lives are documented, but my mum still has those photo albums, and they take up half of her house, the physical photos, and we don't live in that world. But what is power when we're talking about these things? It's information.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be a really nice idea for me to hold on to that has nothing to do with views or metrics. If and when I have kids, or you have kids, or in the future, if not, my nieces and my nephews, what a beautiful record for them to hear this conversation and understand what Uncle Juz was really like and what he really thought about. And maybe that gives them some insight into why they are the way they are, or how they can think.
Yeah, fuck.
And if we just do this as a record, a live record of the way that we are and the way that we feel and the way that we think, I really think in that itself, there's value in doing it.
Yeah, man. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Like it's really is. It's like a really beautiful way to position why you're doing something. And I guess you can apply that really to anything. Like even the people that are listening to this, they're getting a intimate view around how we talk. How we're talking now is like how we have normal conversations, right? We, maybe a few more jokes thrown in the mix. You're usually a comedian of sorts, but and that's what it is, dude. Like, but people, it's a record for anybody that wants to listen to really understand what we're like. And I've got, you'll have people reach out to you and they've listened to something in this conversation. They've gone, wow, I've got to understand Alex on a deeper level, but I also have taken so much from it for my own life. So it's like, fuck the views and fuck the engagement. Just do it because you're going to help somebody.
So then on that note, I started to tell you a little bit about why I do what I do. And with that mindset of, I don't know who's going to listen to this, but I hope that it adds value to them. Maybe I'll just close the loop on that.
Yeah, go for it.
And we got up to the point where I had these family issues. I put all my energy into my work. My career started to take off, but I felt like I needed life experience. I got gung-ho about life experience, made the plan, bought the ticket, off to London. Plans got stopped. All of a sudden, here I am asking for my job back. Ended up staying there for another 2 years and using that time to really get better.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that I really changed pretty much everything in my life. And it was a really difficult time in many respects because whilst I was doing things that were really good for my health, we spoke about it. I used to have way more fun. And all of a sudden, I wasn't relating to my friends as much. And we wanted to hang out, but we just had different things going on.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing the same things. And I think this was an important time in my life to realize that somebody can care for you and want the best for you, but also it's okay if at the moment in that time things change.
Yeah. That's just funny you say that because that's exactly what happened with me and Helen, right? Like it's okay to like love somebody, but know that they're not your person potentially for right now. The future is the future, but for the present, they're not your person. And that was really hard for me. So when you bring that up, it's like, yeah, it's really tough to hear because it also validates and confirms my own beliefs around that. I think what I did, and we'll jump back into what you said, but just to touch on it, it's like I struggled with the fact that I struggled was that I had to create an enemy of her in the sense that I was trying to find things that I didn't like to justify my ability to leave versus understanding in the moment that it's okay to love and leave.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's what brought up now for me. So I just wanted to say, because I just felt like I needed to just, But anyway.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you did.
Yeah.
And let's actually just stop for a second and just sit with that.
Yeah.
Right. It's really important that you don't need to make an enemy out of something. And this isn't even to the person, it's in our own minds.
Yeah.
To justify things. You want to do it, you do it. And I think the good news story here is you said it. Nothing is forever. We never know what's going to happen. We're having this conversation in Bondi. It's been 10 years since I've been back. I moved back 6 months ago. And all of those same people, guess what? If I met them in the streets right now, I would want to be friends with them. So we've all gone on different journeys. We've all done different things.
Yeah.
And we've all evolved in all different areas of our lives. And I aspire and am inspired by so many of my friends. And now we've reconnected. And this idea that we all constantly stay the same is bullshit.
No.
And so
we don't.
We just may change at different points, at different periods. But it's a really beautiful feel good. And I mention this because the art of the unknown, I couldn't have told you this, but I'm so thankful and appreciative to say that I have some of the best friends in the world And guess what? If I met them on the street today, I would want to be their friend because of the way that we think and the way that we act and the conversations that we're having. But the advantage is that we now have 30 years of history.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, man. I love that. I think it's funny. I think for you it's a bit different because you've got friends that you've known your whole life and now you've gone away for 10 years and you've recollected and you've got all that history. For me, it's more I met friends in my 20s that are now my brothers and my sisters, you know, people that I'm super close with, their family. We don't have the 30 years of history. We've only got the 10 years of history. So I've really had to grow with them. But it's funny, like anything, when you start to focus on different parts of your life, the people that can respect your boundaries will continue to be in your life. And the ones that realize they can't use you anymore or they can't get what they need from you, they don't. So what are you left with? You're left with the people in your world that actually truly want to be part of your life, that have like synchronicities with you in care and love and support and all these beautiful traits that you want from the people in your world. And I guess coming back to something we spoke about yesterday, it's like, are you receiving energy? Are they energy givers or are they energy takers? Energy takers, which is a beautiful way to view just your time spent with people.
Why don't you give some context? So
what there's so I'll give you the context of like how it was brought up. So I have a particular friend, we'll call him Bob for the time being. But it's a friend that I've been friends with for a little while now, who I consider quite a good friend. But as I've been going down this road and kind of evolving and, becoming what I feel is just like a more authentic version of me, there's reminiscence of my past within that person that get reminded and get triggered. And, my question was like, I don't feel like what I said to you was I don't feel like I get value from this person anymore. I feel like I'm the one providing the value. And you said something really beautiful, which was, well, I think your perception of, or how you're perceiving that is maybe a little bit off or could be different. I know you didn't use like any negative connotation around it, but you were saying that, when you meet people, maybe view it as energy. Like, are you receiving energy? Do they make you feel lighter and better when you're with them? Or are they energy takers? When you leave them, you just feel really low energy, you're really down, you feel empty, you feel like your cup's been fucking emptied for that period of time you've been with them. And I think, and it comes back to that quote that I spoke to you about, which is like, if when you start seeing people for energy versus people, your whole perception of the world changes. And I think that's what it is. It's like seeing somebody and actually understanding, wow, are they actually making me feel, are they filling my cup with energy? Do I feel lighter, better, stronger, more aware, more happier? Like, is it positive, high frequency emotion I have when I leave them? Or do I feel down? Do I feel drained? Do I feel negative? Do I feel like they're just take? Like, I call them like the energy sucking vampires, you know what I mean? They just come into your world and they take. But that was kind of the context of what we were talking about. Again, I want to take that and I want to start being more aware of that because I couldn't really give you an answer for that experience initially. I had to really go, well, maybe I just need to catch up with them a few more times and actually really make that my focus of am I getting something? Am I feeling lighter when I leave them or not? But it's just a beautiful way to view it. Yeah.
But if anyone is listening to this, let's just make the distinction that energy giver, energy taker has nothing to do with the content of what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Someone might be going through a hell of a lot. You might be talking about some really dark stuff, but when you leave there, you both feel better because you've spoken about it and you're helping each other. And so it actually has nothing to do with, I love hanging out with this guy because we always go to the beach and we always do this. It's when I leave, how do I feel? Irrespective of the topic and the conversation, because life is filled with ups and downs and you can have a really hard conversation and really hold space for someone but still walk away feeling really fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that's maybe the clarification. I've put the caveat in there of what I've just said. But yeah, it's beautiful, dude. I think it's a really great way. And it's going to allow you to really understand who you want in your life and who you don't. Because sometimes you overcomplicate. I think the biggest takeaway was like, I felt like I was overcomplicating the situation with that person in particular. When if it's just going by energy, it simplifies your decision whether you want to spend X amount of time with them, whether you actually want to see them or you don't, whether you want them in your life or you don't, whether you're getting, better energy or you're not, So I think that's a simpler way to really understand who you want in your life. But what I was saying to you before is, I think because I haven't had that history with those friends, it's as I've grown, the ones that align with me and we're on the same path, we want the same things, we're growing together, we provide each other. At this point was value. Now you can really relate that back to the energy, right? But it's beautiful to see that the ones that weren't giving it for me, I think they'll just naturally drop off. They naturally you start seeing them less and less and less. You start communicating less. You don't message each other as much. Like you it's funny how that works, right? You just slowly start. They don't message you. You don't message them. And then eventually you just fucking disappear into the sunset on going either direction,
Well, that's our body's nudging us again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can do that when you're listening to your body.
Mm.
And I think it's worth adding that to close the full loop on.
Yeah, sorry.
No. This is perfect. So talking about your friends and what's happening there and my friends, what's happening here, it doesn't necessarily mean that we all do the same thing and think the same way, right? That's fantastic. And I have friends like that. I have friends I just talk business with. I have friends I just talk health and wellness with. But the best conversations are the ones where I talk health and wellness with my business friends and they talk business with me.
Yeah.
Right? Because the difference now is one thing. Enter the conversation with curiosity.
Mm.
And by doing that, I feel open to just enjoying the conversation and seeing what I can learn from it. And actually, the more different they are, the more I probably have to learn from it. And so literally with many of my friends that I spoke about, it's not that now we've come back and we're all the same people. We're all completely different people. But there's that curiosity and that deep level of trust that we have some really, really incredible conversations, and that's why I enjoyed it. So I think the takeaway is we've been lucky. 10 years, even 5 years of friendship is a lot. But I know people because, and we'll talk about that in a moment, I've had another part of my life where it was in another place, and all of a sudden you go and you make new friends in a new way, and it can feel very transient sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to have those experiences, but if you can build a little bit of trust and stay curious with somebody, it's a really, really fantastic way to gain that life experience. And so I think this is a really nice lean into that next part of my story, which is I finally had the opportunity to leave 2 years later. And this time I really, really wanted life experience. And so before it was London and it was somewhat still going to be about career, but, other side of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And this time I'd spent so long here getting better that it was nothing to do with career, because by this point I was also 2 years ahead, even further in my career. So the balance of power was way too heavy career and not enough life experience for me. And so I decided I wanted to go to Spain. And at the time I had a Spanish girlfriend, and so it made it a little bit easier. We met in Bondi and she had sold the dream. Cha. And it was this incredible experience because I didn't go there looking to further my career or do anything. I just went there looking for something different.
Yeah.
And so I went back to working in a cafe for €5 an hour just so I could serve coffees and learn Spanish, because where's the best place to learn it? It's definitely not at some school. It's in the cafes. You learn the slang, you learn this, you learn that. And the students from the universities would come in and speak with me because they could practice their English.
Yeah.
And so it was a really nice thing to do. But at the time, it was so different from what I was coming from.
Yeah.
That of course I had the voices in my head going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You have everything back home, everything that you want, all the people that fill you up. What are you doing here? And I just wanted to share that because you're about to embark in another part of your journey. And that coffee wasn't about me serving coffee. That was the catalyst. That was the base for what would end up being another 8, 9, 10 years of my life that completely transformed who I believe I am. And I've come back to Bondi, and Bondi might be the same, but I'm different. And so I just think it's a nice opportunity to stop and to talk a little bit to you and about you.
Yeah.
You're about to go on a journey.
I am.
What does that mean for you?
It means uncertainty, the unknown. It means being able to not be confined or restricted by masks and identities that I've had to create and wear around the people that know me best. And that's got easier and easier because I've learned to be more authentic and more true to myself over time. But it's fucking nice going somewhere where no one knows you and you can just start to, I spoke about this in another podcast, but you kind of get to fall back in love with the parts that are already you, that you've kind of neglected, you've put on the shelf for a little while. For me, the biggest thing is having fun. Positive fun, not, going there and doing all the bullshit, but I'm saying like going there and actually having fun with myself, getting on a scooter and just going into the mountains, just fucking explore, just things that I would never normally do. And it's funny because telling you about my last therapy session, we understood that for me, being serious was my safe space, which is why I'm very serious in my day to day. Even though I'm a very fun person, that's my safety zone. And that goes back to narcissistic stepdad. Just, fun was on his terms, not mine. So, being serious was safe. When I was serious, nothing was going to happen. When I was having too much fun and it wasn't on his terms, that's when drama happened. So that's where it leads into adulthood. And that's why I was so much that way. But yeah, I'm excited to have fun, dude. I'm excited to go there. I'm excited to have fun. I'm excited to explore. I'm excited to just be with my thoughts and myself and my actions, my words, do the things that are really good for me, become and start to evolve into a really healthy person, mind, body, and soul. It is a lot of expectation I'm putting on myself, but again, I want to prove myself wrong. Going there celibate, no sex, no drinking, no smoking, no, self-fulfilling fun, all that stuff. That's what I want to go there and just be like, fucking put it on the shelf. I don't need it. It'll be there when I get back. Even if I choose that I want it when I get back. But just to go there completely monk mode, it scares the shit out of me, which I know that's why I need to do it.
Love that.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I just look at it going, even up until this point, I can hear the voice in my head going, dude, you don't want to do it. You want to go there and you just want to fuck and do and but, because that's, you're in Thailand, dude. There's women everywhere. There's this, that's that, whatever. But, reality is that it's just I look at it and go, that's not what I want to do because that's not going to serve me for where I see myself going. So that's why I just want to go there. But again, it's you can hear it. I can hear the ego trying to create the narrative. And I just want to fucking prove you wrong. There's no way it's happening. It's already locked in. It's in the bag. I'm doing it. I'm going to go there and it's going to happen, and that's how I'm saying it to myself constantly. Every time it comes up, I'm just no.
An observation.
Yeah.
All of the things that you were saying earlier will actually bring you joy. The going, the girls, the this and that, I have no doubt it will bring you joy.
Short term. Yeah, short term.
But you said it in the second part of what you were saying. This is about the person you want to be. All of the other things will bring you joy long term.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to have that fight because they both are parts of you.
Yeah.
But it's about delaying that gratification.
That's exactly what it is. It's the short-term gratification versus the long-term, it's also the discipline of when I make a decision, I'm disciplined enough to do what I say, which means I'm building trust with myself that I dictate what I do. I'm not allowing my ego or my mind to create a narrative where I'm just falling into this false sense of what I want in that moment, the fucking, what's the word? the sweets that are on the table, but really
The sugar.
the sugar. It's the sugar. So, and that's what it is. Like, I want to be able to get to a point where, like, when I want something, I'm doing it because I genuinely make the decision that that's what I want right now, but I'm consciously making that decision. I'm not allowing ego or my unconscious to go, you need to do that because that's you're just triggering something from the behavior that you have always done, and now you're just justifying that behavior, sort of thing. So I think that's what it is for me. It's just having the discipline, building the trust again with myself that when I say I'm going to do something, it gets done, because I think that's so fucking important. I think we all fall into that trap where we lose the ability to trust. Like, we say we're going to do something and then we just find 1,000 reasons why we don't do it. And that could be, oh, I'm going to read tonight. And then, but there's this new Netflix show on. I want to, again, it's people don't realize it's all those things, dude. Like, and I fell into it as well. I still do sometimes, not as much, thank God, but I still do. But it's, I'll be in the morning, I'm going to come home, I'm going to read 20 pages or whatever it is before bed. Bed comes on, when I was with Helen, oh, babe, there's a new show. Oh, this new episode's on. Reading's out the window, and it's all of those little things compounded though. And that's the thing. It's like when you're talking about, you said you want to become 1% better every day. You can also become 1% worse every day. And those are the decisions that lead you to becoming 1% worse. You can go the opposite direction. It's not like you're at a neutral and it goes up. And all of those decisions are votes for you, for the person you want to become or the person that you don't want to become. What are you voting for? What are the decisions you're making? Are they going to be votes for the right direction or the wrong direction? And you've got to be conscious enough as much as possible to go, all right, in this moment, I'm about to do something that, does it align with my core values and beliefs and the person that I want to identify as moving forward? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what is going to align better. So I don't know where I'm kind of going, but I guess the whole premise of what I'm saying is that you have to be making sure that the decisions you're making daily are building trust with you, building discipline, and also getting you to a point where you can become closer to that person that you want to become. I don't know where that started. I just went with the flow with it, dude. But fuck,
I love it. Firstly, thank you. Thank you for talking about it. Yeah, I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it. That's what it's about.
Because, like, as you're sitting there, my mind's going. I'm thinking of the 10 things that I said to myself I was going to do that I didn't. And then that's triggering another thought going, shit, I can't even keep a promise to myself. And then what's next? I'm not even good enough, valuable enough, worthy enough to do things for myself. And it's a very slippery slope.
It is,
and
yeah.
I think for anybody listening to this,
yeah,
it's fantastic to have that awareness. But let's just take it back a step and say, if you listen to that and you were thinking like me the whole time, shit, and I haven't been true to myself here and haven't been true to myself there, it doesn't mean you're a shit person.
No.
And in fact, I would go as far as saying that, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. There's a reason why you had one plan and you ended up watching Netflix. It's because they've invested billions of dollars into marketing to make that true. And so much into UI and UX when they were doing their A/B testing to make sure that you click that button.
Yeah.
And so just being aware that it's not your fault, but that you have all of these different distractions coming at you. I think it's nice to say, well, this feels really overwhelming for me. I keep on having these false starts. What can I do? And one thing that's been really helpful for me is actually reading a lot about habit building and habit formation. And there was one point that stuck with me when I was doing this years ago. And it was this idea that by nature, we are designed to be lazy. And it's important.
Let's dive into this.
And
Explain.
it's important because if you think about it, we're the same beings as thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah.
We might live in the world with Netflix and chill and all of this, but ultimately our wiring and firing is exactly the same.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And so on that basic level, what is more valuable to go around and use all your energy all day, or conserve your energy waiting until you need to go and hunt, and then using that energy to hunt, bring back food, and then eating and conserving that energy. And so we're designed to take the path of least resistance. And I think that's why I fell into my career, because I'm actually really lazy, and that's why I'm really good at optimizing things.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a lazy fuck.
Yeah. It's by design. I'm looking at something, I'm going, there's an easier way to do that.
They're like, you know what? We're going to give you a lot of money to tell us how to be more lazy. Like, done. That's my gig. I love it.
But we all are to some extent. And so I felt it was important because I wanted to hear that for myself. And it's very easy to hear the David Goggins, go, 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 you can do more. And it's all right. But what on the days that you don't? Just remember, and you said it, it's okay as long as the next day you try and do it again. And the more ticks in the box that you have as a vote that you want to be versus the crosses, the only thing that matters is at the end of your life, do you have more ticks than crosses? And so I just want to bring it back to that idea, because it's really easy to get caught up in this self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm going to do what I say, and if you don't, then what? And knowing that we're inherently designed to be lazy, because it's actually about conserving energy. And then, so what? Well, I'm not going to leave you hanging. There is something that you can do, and there's something that I've done, and there's a lot of research out there now about habit building and habit formation, and a lot of it is about make the things that are not good for you difficult, and make the things that are good for you easy. So we were talking about it. I pay a premium to live by the beach. And you were like, well, I wouldn't really need to live here. I'm happy to live out. Well, I'm paying a premium to make it easy for me to go down and start my morning doing meditation and jumping in the ocean, as opposed to making it the difficult thing. But for example, let's talk Netflix. We're all suckers for it. Hide the remote or put it downstairs. Make it an effort to go and have to get it to watch it. And then if you still want to do it, well, at least send us a decision. But otherwise, we're on autopilot. And so I thought it was worth mentioning that, because it's very easy to come across, and we always say, yep, I'm going to say what I'm going to do, and we should always aim for that. But if you're not, don't be hard on yourself. Understand it's by design, and understand there are things that you can do within that design to kind of play your cards so that you end up doing the things that you want more often.
I agree with that. I think the only caveat is make sure you're not blaming or putting the blame on, oh yeah, but it's because of the marketing, or it's because of this, it's because it's very easy, right? It's very easy to just start blame shifting your problems onto everything else externally. So I think there has to be a level of accountability there, which is, okay, granted I'm making the decision, but I'm owning that decision that I'm making to watch the Netflix. And within that, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm not going to be judgmental towards myself. I'm just going to allow the feeling or whatever it is. But yeah, I think there's an important part there, which is like you can't just do it and then just blame that it's because it's this or that. You be accountable for as much as you can in your world, but you have to be accountable. Like, that's one of my biggest things. Be fucking accountable.
You're so right on the money. And this is, for me, less about accountability than it is about awareness, right? We spoke about what are the things we want in our toolkit in this next phase. You know, what are the things we'd like to instill? I think number one is awareness. The awareness that, just be aware that when you go and play with your phone all day, because I do it. Let me see if I can get my...
Oh, the screen. So just explain to them. So you've got like a picture on your screen, which is a guy that's looking at his phone, but it's basically his face is getting pulled into the phone. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly right. So my screensaver on my phone is this guy being completely immersed into his phone, that it's essentially sucking his face into it. And it's a bunch of people lined up at a train station, and they're all doing it. And I've got this on here because I pick up my phone so much for such bullshit when I don't even need to.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. Now, I'm not blaming Apple because they did a fantastic design to make me do it. I use this phone for so many things.
Yeah.
But I need to be aware that there's moments that it doesn't serve me. And so these are the tricks that I'm talking about of put some friction in between. It's not about saying I'm not responsible or accountable.
Yeah.
But just be aware that a lot of thought has gone in to make these things sticky. The things that are not good for us.
For sure.
Like sugar, like this, like that. And so you can't blame them. But if you're aware of it, then that's a huge step forward to be able to be accountable.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to not be accountable when you say, well, I don't know what I don't know and I'm just going through this. But when you know and then you decide, well, it hits different.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's true. Like even with your phone, I'll pick it up and I'll be like, I just picked it up 2 minutes ago. Why am I on Instagram again? Like I'm watching a movie. I'm on Instagram and I'm on, and I'll go, no. What are you doing? Put your phone. And sometimes I'll literally grab my phone. I'll walk out of the room and I'll put it in a different room. And then I'll go watch the movie. Because I'm like, well, what the fuck why am I going to watch a movie if I'm not going to watch the movie? It's like background noise. And I'm just wasting my time. So again, it's coming back to what you said. It's making things difficult. What you're like focusing on one thing at a time if you can, but make the things that you don't want to be doing difficult and make the things that you do want to be doing, easy and accessible. And the perfect example is actually Atomic Habits where they talk about with the fruit. Like you want to be healthy, you want to eat more fruit. Most people just leave it in the cupboard. No, you grab the fruit, you put it on the bench, in plain sight. There's no way you can miss it. So when you wake up in the morning and you're about to go to work, you see the fruit. It means you're making it easier to grab that fruit and eat it on the way to work versus keeping it in the cupboard. You're going to forget. You're not going to see it. You're making a good habit harder. And then you can do it with a variety of different things, anything that you're not happy. But I guess it starts back to like, what are the bad habits that you want to reduce and what are the good habits you want to instill, and then creating the frameworks around each of those. And you don't have to do every single one. The best thing is to start with the one that you're really not happy with and then work through it. And then when you're at a stage where you've got that down pat, then you can focus on the next task. Don't overdo it like we always love to do. We want to always do a million things at once. And that's, I think for me, my growth stage, just to kind of come back into like how I started this journey, this self-healing journey. It's creating a list of the things that I wasn't happy about with myself and then slowly, one by one, starting to address those issues. Really important because that for me set up the framework that I'm like, well, if I can do it successfully with one, I can navigate. Each one became easy to navigate. And that doesn't mean that I don't fall back into old patterns because I 100% do. We all do. But I'm so much better equipped to bring myself out. I don't live there. I'm not paying fucking rent there anymore. I go there for a quick 1-2 day holiday and then I'm back living in my new location, which is healthy Alex, moving towards a better, more enjoyable, more fulfilling life, doing things that really I enjoy doing, creating an identity for myself that I can really be proud of that I'm moving into. So it's like I do fall back into old patterns, but again, I'm not paying rent. I'm stopping in, I'm stopping out. And then I'm going back into the high frequencies, the things that really make me happy. But yeah, I guess coming back to what you said, it's just making the hard things as hard as you can, the things that are not good for you, and making the really good things that you want to achieve as easy as possible to do. And by doing that, you're going to have a better chance of keeping that habit ongoing and creating the discipline around it and the rest of it.
And this, at the very start of this conversation, we spoke about the morning ritual and what we did and how we did it. And when things become ingrained in you, that's the next step of a habit, right? It just becomes a part of you. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic thing. And then the next evolution of that is, has it become so much part of your identity that if you don't have it, you're no longer the person you are? And that's the full circle of today, right? So the whole thing is there's lots of different tools and techniques and methods and people that you can listen to that can give lots of good advice. But it's take one little piece, act on it, and always come back to the awareness of what you were saying. Is this for me? Serving me, not serving me? Is this now so deeply ingrained in me that it's now defining me as opposed to me defining it?
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful to keep that in mind. think this whole conversation, if we were to summarize it, it's actually about have a direction, have an approach, have a view, but then be open to flex and change.
Yeah. I love that. Man, I want to wrap it up. I've got a last question. I ask all guests, answer at your own peril or your own risk or your own... No, I'm just fucking with you. So my question to you is, if you were sitting with your younger self, your inner child in front of you, what would be the one piece of advice you would give that child? And why would that piece of advice be as important to you as it would be for them?
Wow. If you don't mind, I'm actually just going to close my eyes for a second and think about it.
Take your time.
The people you care about would be so proud of you. That's it.
Yeah.
It's that, because it's back to this thing, why do we do what we do? And at least for me in my earlier years, and I think to an extent still today, we all do. It's recognizing that how much of we do we do it for us or for others, to try and make sure that they think that we're good enough, or that they think that we are worthy enough and we live up to the expectation, and knowing that whatever we do, however we do, whatever path we take in whatever combination, they're proud of us. It almost eliminates that whole need to please.
I love that, man. Firstly, thank you for sharing. It's been beautiful to hold space for you and to have the conversation and to reconnect. I haven't seen you for months and months and months. So we literally went from seeing each other every single day to basically seeing each other, sporadically now, ad hoc. But we'll definitely do it again. And thank you for coming on and sharing and being open and having the conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, brother.
My G.